You're listening to the TV Obsessive channel, presented by TVObscast.com.
Hello, welcome back to episode 75 of the TV Obsessive podcast. My name is Ryan Kirksey. I am a writer and contributor for TVObsessive.com. And as always, joined by Cameron Crane, executive editor for the site. We have not been down deep in the silo for a long time. You're ready to explore that area again today?
Indeed. I mean, like all things considered, it doesn't feel like it's been that long, right? I
Yes,
mean,
yeah.
season one,
Compared to some things we'll talk about today, it's not been
yeah,
that long.
compared to like Severance, it feels like season one of Silo was just on. I mean, I guess it's been year and a half ish, as I recall how the timing worked out, maybe a little less than that. But yeah, we're going to start talking about Silo season one. The premiere episode came out today on Apple TV Plus. You can check out Ryan's recap and review article on TVObsessive.com, which I have read. And that's something of a jumping off point, but I think we'll have a good conversation about the episode. Um, First, as usual, just kind of chat a bit about what we've been watching, what's been in the news, and things like that. It's November 15th, 2024 today, somehow already the middle of November, the Ides of November. Do we say that?
No, I don't think that's a thing.
I think maybe it technically is, but don't worry about it. Whatever. Whatever. What are you watching this week, Ryan?
Well, in addition to, yes, starting Silo up again this week, which again did come out today, I've made it through the first three episodes of a show we've talked about quite a bit, Say Nothing, which debuted on FX Hulu on Thursday, the 14th. And all I
Mhm.
can say so far through three of the nine episodes is just unequivocal yes. Just go
Yeah.
watch this show. Yes. Particularly episode two is just a sledgehammer. It's just knocks you out. It's so good. It's so, so good. I love this story. The set deck, the authenticity to the period of time. It's actually set in three different time frames over the course of the story. The combination of these British and Irish actors are just tremendous. So far, again, through three of the nine episodes, I'm in love with it.
Awesome. Yeah, we have talked about it a bit before and expressed our disappointment a little bit at the binge drop model. I'll have to try to make some time to check it out. And soon probably, because part of my complaint is always I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah,
I should watch that at some point. Like people are talking about it for maybe a week or two and then they're not anymore. And they're like,
yeah.
well, now it doesn't matter when I watch it. But
This would have, it's to that point, this would have lended itself to, it's not a mystery show. It's not really a whodunit type of show, but it would allow some room to breathe and sort of revisit this period of time that they're talking about, right? It's like, growing up, we knew like Zombie from the Cranberries. That's all I knew about the IRA and the Troubles and all this, right? So, but it just allow you to explore more of that. There's just so much richness to this time period in this story, and you're thrust into a piece of it. Yeah, there's so much of a bigger world that could be explored if it was the week to week. But we've discussed all that already.
yeah, we just take every opportunity to complain. I noticed, and some reviews have come out and so on with another aspect of releasing it all at once is then you just basically all you get are people who are reviewing the whole, and you don't
Mhm.
get like the week to week recap articles or anything like that, usually with shows like that. Something else we've been looking forward to that I checked out this week and I'm writing on, I kind of last minute decided, hey, I'm gonna write on the creep tapes.
Yes, I'm glad. I'm going to
Uh,
check this out this weekend.
so I've seen the first two episodes. My article on the first two episodes is up on TVObsessive.com as of today. It publishes like the same time as your Silo article. Because streamers they are legally required to release things at
Yeah,
midnight Pacific.
yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah,
no
yeah.
way around it. It is the calendar date. Got to put it out. Um, so yeah, the embargo was after it aired, so like
Right.
4 a.m. Eastern. Yeah, good. Anyway, you can check that out. This would be if people don't know about the show. It's a continuation. I guess you could say continuation. It's in the Creep franchise, right? So there's two films. Creep came out, I think, 2014. Creep
Yeah,
2 in
10 years ago. Yeah.
2017. Mark Duplass, Patrick Bryce directs. Patrick Bryce also is the other star in the first film.
Yeah.
Very kind of low budget indie. So it's like two people are in this movie. But we're returning to Mark Duplass's. It's a really intriguing character to me. I don't recall, Ryan. Have you seen the films?
Yeah, I think we talked about. I've seen the first one shortly after it came out, so it's been a long time. I'd have to
Mhm.
go back and revisit it, or maybe that's a good question. Should I revisit it ahead of wanting to watch these episodes?
Well, something I thought about because I actually don't remember the second film terribly
Yeah.
well in the details. It's kind of in my mind that I recall thinking it was pretty good, but not really as good as the first film, which was like lodged itself in my mind. It had like a significant impact where there are times where it's just like the final scene of that film will just like enter my consciousness. Like, oh no. With the second film, there really isn't something like that. So, but having watched the first couple episodes of the Creep Tapes, it's an anthology series. And the feeling is really that each episode is going to be like a half-hour long creep film.
Okay.
25 minutes, whatever. And so the name of each episode is a person's name. Like episode 1 is called Mike, and episode 2 is called Elliot.
Hmm.
And as you would expect, the episodes are about Mike and then Elliot and their encounter with our he's still a protagonist even though he's a killer, whose name is something. Right? In the first episode he says his name is Jeff Daniels, but not that Jeff Daniels.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm enjoying it a lot. There are a total of 6 episodes in the season, I guess. I'll keep writing about it week to week. Those will come out on Friday if people are interested. If you haven't seen this stuff at all, anyone listening, it may or may not be up your alley. If
Yeah.
low budget indie horror found footage film featuring Mark Duplass sounds good to you and you haven't seen Creep, go check it out. It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
And the Creep
Yeah. Okay. I
tapes
was going to
are
ask. These are
on Shudder.
Yeah. I was going to say Netflix, Shutter. You can find these episodes on Netflix. Is that what I heard you say?
The Creep tapes are on Shudder and AMC Plus,
Okay. Okay.
but the Creep films are both on Netflix.
Films on Netflix. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I think they're like Netflix original films, actually. So,
Yeah.
um, besides that, on a completely other side of the spectrum, it was like I also need some like mindless thing to watch. Have you ever checked out Crime Scene Kitchen? I know you enjoy the cooking shows.
Yeah, I've never seen this one before. Yeah, we have talked about this before. My wind down shows are all Top Chef or Great British Baking Show or um, Master Chef. Just all these cooking competition things. That's my wind down shows. But I've never seen Crime Scene Kitchen.
It just kind of caught my eye. I was on Hulu. I didn't have any more episodes of The Floor to watch, and this premise sounds kind of interesting. Uh, it's hosted by Joel McHale, which you mentioned before, just hosts a
Yeah.
whole bunch of things. It seems like we don't know what they all are, but now I'm aware of this one. And the premise basically is like each team investigates a kitchen where there are remnants of something that has been made, and
Okay.
they have to figure out what that thing is.
Oh, like clues. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so it's part they're investigating the crime scene. My only minor quibble about the show is it's like all desserts, which kind of makes sense a little bit. I mean, because I guess it's easier to come up with kind of how one detail or another might lead you in the direction of a cheesecake or
Yeah.
devil's, okay, whatever. Um, it's basically fine. It's just like on the kind of food porn level.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of desserts personally. Maybe
Yeah.
that's
Basically.
weird. Maybe it makes me a weirdo, but it's like
So they're not recreating these, 5 course Michelin meals. It's all desserts.
no, it's always like each episode. I've only been in the first season. There are multiple seasons of the show, so
Yeah.
maybe it changes later. But each episode they have 2 rounds, and both of them are desserts. And it's like
Okay.
they call the second one they call the first one the dessert round, and then they call the second one the showcase round. And like it's still dessert. I mean, I guess the second round they are much more prone to be making like large cakes, and I guess
Okay.
that's the point.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but it's just kind of interesting because then they're judged on the basis of whether they made the right thing,
Yeah.
and then they're also judged on the basis of how good it is.
Okay. Well, I
Yeah.
might add it to my cooking reality show list at some point.
This is not like deep, meaningful television. This is it's a cooking show with Joe McHale and it's a reality cooking show. But I did think the premise here was it's kind of an interesting twist, right? That they've got
Yeah, yeah,
to,
yeah. So,
and you trying to figure it out yourself, and you're like, oh, is this team right? Because you don't know either as you're watching the show until they get to the judging panel. You don't know what dessert they're supposed to be making. So it's
yeah,
kind of fun.
okay. All right. Sounds fun. Sounds like a good wind down show, which I enjoy.
Yeah, you put it on after you've been watching some creep tapes. Um, let's segue here to the news this week. We got a few things to talk about. Maybe not a ton. You want to start with the Amazon stuff?
Yeah, several things here this week related to Amazon's freebie service, some stuff that they're adopting into a fast model, PBS. Yeah, just Amazon in general in the news, just on the business side, I guess. So you want to sort of set the stage for us for some of the things that have happened this week?
Yeah, well, it's kind of odd. Let's start with the headline that they're shutting down Freebie,
Mm-hmm.
which has been their fast service, um, free advertising streaming television is what it stands for, or something like that. Free ad-based streaming television.
Television. There you go. You found it.
Um, Freebie, which used to be IMDb TV, Freebie put out Jury Duty, which I know you wrote
Yeah.
about, and there are a
Yeah.
few other things that are kind of noteworthy. But what's kind of weird if you dig in the details, it's like they're quote unquote shutting down Freebie, but they're not really technically. They're like
Yeah. They're just
they're
it's just
discarding the
a
brand.
conglomeration. They're gonna put it all under the Prime Video brand. Yeah, and make it be free.
Right. So they're going to put it all under the Prime Video brand. But now under Prime Video, there's going to be some stuff that you don't have to have Prime Video in order to be able to watch.
Right.
That's not confusing at all. Right. So, I mean, okay, fine. I will admit, I've kind of gotten used to it, but I will admit when they announced Freebie, I thought, well, that's a stupid name.
Yeah, yeah,
So, and it didn't really catch on as a brand, but it seems to me like that's how I understand the story. Really, what it is they're getting rid of the brand. I mean, I guess that also means on the back end, there, I'm sure are employees who have been tasked with specifically focusing on Freebie and producing
yeah.
things for Freebie. Um, so there is something here, but on the consumer end, it's going to be a kind of weird thing. I guess
Yeah.
so. You go to Amazon Prime Video, right? And there will be some things that you can watch for free, even though you don't subscribe to Amazon Prime Video.
Right.
And there can be other things that you can watch if you do subscribe to Amazon Prime Video at no further cost. And
Yeah.
then, of course, there are other things that are available through Amazon Prime Video, but which you would have to purchase.
Exactly. Purchase
So,
or
as
rent.
I said, not confusing at all.
Yeah. And I was trying to think, I could not come up with another example of a streamer where if you just had a login, for example, you didn't pay for anything, you just logged in, there are free either shows, movies, episodes of things available. I don't think Netflix or Hulu or Peacock or Apple TV offers these things. Maybe they do, and I'm just not familiar with them. But I mean, literally, if you just have an Amazon account, you buy stuff and you don't have a Prime membership or Prime Video membership, there will be some things on there you can just go watch for free.
Yeah, I mean, I know that when Hulu started, there was stuff that you could watch for free and not have an account. And I don't know if they're still doing that at all. There are other fast,
Yeah, yeah.
if I say fast service, that's redundant. I don't even know how to talk about this. Okay. It's not redundant if you ignore what the acronym stands for. Um, anyway, there is like Tubi and
This is true. Yeah, yeah,
Pluto, and some other stuff that is in that space of
yeah.
pre-advertising based
But again, are
streaming.
those streamers where they're creating their own content? Not that I'm aware
No, they're
of.
not creating their own content.
Yeah. So and I don't think that the like you're not going to go get Jack Ryan or Rings of Power for free on Prime Video. This is going to be, specifically things designed for that or that they have just adopted as part of their library. So you're not going to get the exclusive stuff for free anywhere, I don't think.
Yeah, no,
I don't know.
now I've gotten confused. One thing you are going to be able to get for free is your local PBS station, which is
There you
pretty
go.
cool.
Yeah.
That's another news story we have here. That PBS is coming to Amazon Prime for free because this is where the two tie together. Amazon Prime no longer means you have to pay for Amazon Prime.
Right.
Anyway, so one thing that will be on there for free moving in the future is PBS Kids stuff. I don't know exactly what this will look like. But I think it's pretty cool. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
in that space of being a cord cutter to have access to PBS here.
Absolutely. This sort of public access television, which, again, that model is, many, many decades ago at this point, but that the content that they are creating, whether it's the kids shows, the cartoons, the documentaries, some of they used at some point, I don't know if they still do have a tie-in with NPR. I mean, they have a lot of quality stuff there and be able to offer that for free to anyone, particularly, households with children. Obviously probably for you and me both, Sesame Street was a big part of our growing up, and you watched that and helped you learn. That's the type of stuff that should be available to households, no matter whether you can afford an Amazon Prime membership or not.
Yeah, agreed. So I don't know what all they've got going on the kids front anymore. I was always a fan of
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers,
Oh yeah. Oh
but
my
but
gosh.
of
Yep.
course, Fred Rogers died quite a while ago at this point. No more Mr. Rogers. Sesame Street, I think, went to HBO or something.
That's true. Yeah,
I don't know if
that's a
you
good
kept.
point now that you mentioned that. I don't even recall if Sesame Street can be played on PBS anymore. Anyway, this is
I'm not
all
sure.
getting so complicated.
I know, but anyway, but this would also include, PBS puts out any number of like documentary series, news programs. I think they still do like masterpiece theater kind of
Hmm.
stuff, and it's PBS. It's good, and it'll be available
Yeah.
there for free. I have to figure out how to talk about this branding now, but I guess it's just all Prime Video, but the Prime Video doesn't necessarily mean you have to pay for Prime,
That's
Amazon
right.
Prime, whatever.
That's right.
Um, The other thing related to Amazon, going in a slightly different direction, we've talked before about the plans for a Tomb Raider show. Um, since Phoebe Waller-Bridge
Yeah, Phoebe
helmed show.
Waller-Bridge,
Um,
straight off the success of being, in the last Indiana Jones movie, she has apparently loved Laura Croft and played the video game growing up and always wanted to be involved in some adaptation of that. And so she has partnered with Amazon. They are creating a Laura Croft Tomb Raider show. They are going to do another movie. They are going to do another video game. And Phoebe Waller-Bridge is all tied into this, and people are speculating would she be a part of it? The answer apparently will be no, other than sort of show running all of this stuff. And they have apparently
mhm.
are close to selecting Sophie Turner, who many may know as Sansa Stark, as the lead, as Laura Croft. So I don't know. Maybe I'm so deep into Game of Thrones world. I'm just having trouble picturing this, but I've never really been a Laura Croft Tomb Raider fan or played much of the games or watched much of the movies. So I don't know if this is a good choice or not. I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, I feel similarly. Never really been a Tomb Raider guy, but it's been in the culture for so long that, of course, we have ideas of what Laura Croft ought to look like,
Yeah.
or what have you. Sophie Turner, okay, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
she's a good actor. Um, I have trouble picturing it, but I'm curious to
Yeah.
see if they do cast her, what it looks
Maybe it's
like,
because
and how the show
there was
does.
someone who's so iconic and Angelina Jolie who played that role in a couple of movies. Maybe just when you have someone of
Hmm.
that level, you just automatically associate it with that person. So maybe that'll change as things shift to Sophie Turner. But yeah, just having a hard time seeing that at this point. But I have room to be convinced otherwise.
Yeah, that may be part of it because we've got Angelina Jolie and then a lot of animated versions of Laura Croft, whether in the games or I think there's also a Netflix show that came out not too long ago on Tomb Raider. Well, kind of interesting that we're getting a resurgence of stuff
Mhm.
from Tomb Raider because that game, the original game must have come out, what, 25 years ago or
Oh yeah,
something?
it's well over 20 years ago now. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Let's hit on go to Squid Game, I guess. There's not much news here. I mean, if you read this article, I've got their notes from Entertainment Weekly. It's almost kind of sad. It's like the creator of Squid Game talking about how he lost teeth, that like he couldn't afford to go to the dentist or something. I mean, anyhow, we have mentioned this before. Squid Game season 2 is on the horizon. Narratively, I have my doubts about whether this is necessary, but I've always thought it's a good thing because I've known for a long time that the creator of Squid Game didn't get very much money. So, yeah, pay. Now I have to try to pronounce his name. Wong Dong Yuk. Apologies if I
Yeah. This is
apologies if I mangled his Korean name.
this is the funniest thing I read today. This article that we'll link to in the show notes, that he apparently lost 8 or 9 teeth because of stress during the filming of Squid Game. He couldn't go to the dentist because he didn't make any money making the first season of Squid Game. Now he wants to make the second season, primarily because of money,
Yeah,
primarily because he feels like he should be compensated, and he's still having trouble with teeth, and he says he might have to pull a couple more of his own before he makes it to the dentist. So this is just, I mean, yeah, yes. If your guy who created a global phenomenon is having to pull his own teeth, please compensate him enough to where you can at least get a health plan to go get a dentist do this for him.
yeah, exactly. That's what I put in notes. Pay him. Pay Hong Young Yuk. Um, and I had known this from the beginning. That he didn't get a lot of money for season 1. I remember reading that early on. I just thought, and I did think it was humorous. If you read the CW article where it's just like a little bit of an interview in there, and like, well, why are you making Squid Game season 2? And the first thing he says is money.
Yeah,
I love the honesty of it.
I
And he
mean,
goes,
of
oh yeah,
course.
there's, and then you got to finish the story. But
Oh no! I mean, like I said, we'll both be watching this, but as the details come out, it's more and more clear that yeah, Netflix needs to. That's a good thing they're doing this so they can take care of this guy.
yeah, hopefully he's being well compensated. I have no idea what the
Yeah,
you know pay he's getting is or anything like that. But there's supposed to be season 2 and season 3, so hopefully season 2 is good. Kind of looking forward to watching it in that week between Christmas and New Year's.
right.
That's when it
Yeah,
comes out. If you recall, I think on the 26th.
yeah, that will come out just before 2025. We saw a couple weeks ago a sizzle reel for Netflix, some of the things that they have coming up, but now both Max and Disney Plus slash Hulu have put out their sizzle reels for 2025, and I really sort of keyed in on the HBO slash Max. Um, it's on YouTube. You can go find this anywhere. You can watch some of the things they have coming out in 25. It's going to be a big year for them. I
Yeah,
mean, White Lotus, Hacks, Righteous Gemstones, I saw on there. I was excited to see Gilded Age, Last of Us. I mean, all of their big tentpole pieces are going to come around in 2025, and there's 10 more I'm not listing here that you can see. It's going to be a pretty massive year, whereas we knew 2024 was going to be this odd sort of piece together thing after the strike. So yeah, 2025, it was, what was the phrase you always say, survive till 25 or something like that? This is coming.
I don't think I've ever said that.
Maybe I've heard that somewhere else. I don't know, but
Well, I mean, conceptually, I may have hit the point, but I don't think I've ever like put a slogan like "Survive to
yeah.
25." One thing that really stood out to me is that the rehearsal was in there. There's going
Yes,
to be a
that's the other
season
one.
2 of the rehearsal, which I always had a question of whether there even would be a season 2 of the rehearsal. I still have the question of whether there should be a season
Yeah.
2 of the rehearsal. But
You mean ethically, should there be a season 2 of the rehearsal?
also that, also that. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the esteemed Alan Sepinwall was like deeply offended by the end of season 1. He was morally offended
Yes.
by what the show did, and that was like in his review of the season finale. I loved it. I thought it was great, but of course, I'm a big fan of Nathan Fielder. Um, my fingers are crossed that we also get more of The Curse, which is on
Yeah.
Showtime, Paramount Plus for Showtime. But yeah, HBO season 2 of the rehearsal. I really wonder with that one what they'll do. I guess that's part of why it's sticking out to me. But as you mentioned, lots of good stuff in there, including
Yeah.
White Lotus. And apparently, this other news item that caught my eye. Mike White's already pitched season 4,
Yeah.
and HBO's already said we'll make it if he wants to. So it's
Yeah.
happening. That might as well be a renewal announcement.
These seasons keep getting bigger and grander. I don't necessarily want to comment on whether they're getting better. Season two was I thought quite good. We'll see on season three, but this
Yeah,
is enough of a phenomenon now that yeah, I think they'll make as many seasons of anthology White Lotus as Mike White can pump out there, right? And
yeah,
you can recruit 8 or 10 actors to go live in an exotic five-star hotel for 4 months to film this. I mean, this can go on forever.
yeah. Good for Mike White.
That's right.
And I like the show also, so I'm looking forward to more of it. But really, yeah, good for Mike White. Good on you, man. Did you watch Enlightened?
No, I've never seen that.
Go back and check out Enlightened at some point. That's like Mike White's first show that got canceled. Stars Laura
Okay.
Dern and Mike White's also in it, as I recall. Um, so yeah, we got that going for us. And also coming in 2025 at some point would be The Handmaid's Tale. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of, a couple things we've referenced. Number one, Disney Plus and Hulu's Sizzle Reel, plus something that had their last season a long time ago. By the time Handmaid's Tale comes out sometime in mid 2025, it's going to been likely more than 2.5 years since the finale of season five. But we finally got some information here. We got some production photos. We got a little bit of detail on what's going to happen here in this final season of Handmaid's Tale. Elizabeth Moss, obviously, very heavily involved. We've got a piece here we'll link to on what's happening. Still no definitive date, which is quite odd for these things. All these things coming in 2025. Maybe they're still sorting out that calendar, but I just comment on this because not there's a lot of news here, but just that they have confirmed it's coming out next year. It has been
Mhm.
quite the production to get this last season done. But if you listen to the stars, the people behind it, they're very excited about this last season. So we'll see whenever we officially get a date when it's going to be here.
Cool. Hopefully it's hopefully it's a little ways out because I started thinking as I was looking at this, like maybe I should finally revisit and catch up on The Handmaid's Tale. I think I mentioned to you before how I'm like way behind.
Yeah, yeah,
I might as well just start at the beginning.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, if they say let's start it late summer and it's 10 episodes, it'll be a full 3 years in between finales there. I mean, that's even this day and age, that's a long time. So it's been
yeah.
anticipated for quite a bit now.
Okay, I guess I hope it comes sooner for the fans.
Yeah.
But no, it is on my mind. Like, I mean, maybe I should actually catch up on the show. I always thought it was a good show. And I may have mentioned before when I started watching it, I was just like, I don't know. I was having trouble with it,
Yeah. Yeah.
in like psychological terms or something.
Yeah.
And maybe having the space now where it's like, oh, I need to watch this and take notes about uh,
What our
what
future will be
society's going to
like.
be
Yeah.
like.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so yeah. Okay. Well, I think that about covers what we had in our news items here. So you ready to talk about Silo?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. So okay, we are on to Silo season 2, episode 1. So spoilers are on the table here for that episode, and then I would guess it kind of goes without saying season 1 also. Um, so we'll pop in a little bit of music. We'll be back in about 10 seconds to talk about Silo.
Okay, we are back to talk about Silo, Season 2, Episode 1, titled The Engineer. This episode, written by Graham Yost and directed by Michael Denner. Silo is taken from a series of short stories turned into novels that are by Hugh Howey. Season 2 opens with a flashback showing the uprising of some kind of rebellion by the occupants of a different silo than we were in Season 1. These rebels force their way past armed guards, all make their way outside, where we learn that every one of them perished and exposed their silo to the dangers of the outside. After leaving the area around her home silo, Juliet discovers this abandoned one many years later, decides to explore what is inside. Besides the thousands of bodies she finds, the lower levels of the silo have been flooded, and the bridge to their IT has been destroyed. Juliet does eventually find a way to build a bridge across where she can explore that area. She finds a locked vault there. At that locked vault, a man warns her if she tries to open that door, he will kill her. Throughout the episode, we also see another flashback where young Juliet joins Mechanical, where she starts her career there as a trash sorter. befriends Shirley and begins to apprentice under Walker. So we get, one POV in this episode where Juliet, as we saw at the end of season one, left to clean. She refused to do it. She discovers that actually the world is in a pretty terrible shape, and she can't expose herself to it. She discovers that there are dozens, if not hundreds, of other silos out there. In this episode, we look into one of them. So, thoughts on just sort of the mechanics and how they told the story through this episode, because we don't see any of our other main characters in this premiere here for season two.
Yeah, which I guess thinking about it is not terribly surprising. And I know that you have your criticisms or worries about this episode from reading the article you wrote on it, which I get and share at least to some degree. But it largely worked for me, and particularly at the beginning of the episode, I felt really hooked and like really entertained. And I think the thing that relates to your criticisms is the middle dragged.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, like, oh, she can't get, she hears a noise, but she can't get across the gap. We know that she's going to get across the gap. And I found myself thinking as I was watching, like, I wish she would have just gotten across the first try.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Like, why are they're gonna spend like half an hour on this? And I mean, I guess the thing is, it becomes clear. This was also my kind of complaint, such as it was about season one. Sometimes the show just moves kind of so slowly. Um, but I think that's just what it is. I think we have to accept that and stop complaining about it. Probably we can complain about it today, but I
Yeah,
don't know that this worry is going to go away. Right? I think it might do this again to us, where it's just kind of like, really, that's all that happened.
I think you're right. And I think that I need to accept the fact that we're, at least for some period of time, if not the entire season, going to have, maybe we're flipping back and forth between locations in these episodes. And I think it's pretty clear that episode two is going to go back to the original silo. I've seen pieces of commentary and review from this season that, it was very often Rebecca Ferguson and Steve Zahn filmed their scenes completely separate and apart and on different days and different times, different places than the rest of the cast and crew. So I probably shouldn't expect much of them overlapping here in the beginning, at least in the first half of the season. We're gonna go back and forth, it seems like, for at least a little while.
That's what I would expect.
Yeah.
And I haven't read the things that you've read, I guess, that would bolster that. But just narratively thinking about, okay, what's a show going to do?
Yeah.
Well, I know what it's going to do. It's going to leave us on this cliffhanger, and then the next episode is going to be all about Bernard.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
going to be all back in the other silo, and we're not going to proceed any further with Juliet's perspective. We're going to end with this weird guy's eyes in the slot saying, "I'll kill you if you try to open the door again." And it'll be 2 weeks before we get back to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would guess, maybe part of that is, I haven't read the books or stories, but maybe part of that is mimicking the structure of the source text, right?
Yeah.
Because you do often see that if you're reading a book, that it will, one chapter will end, and then you'll go to some other perspective for the whole next chapter or multiple chapters before you get back to
Yeah.
that cliffhanger, and sometimes it's done really well and you end up reading the whole book really fast. We are watching this week to week, so
Yeah. Yeah.
but I think that's part of it too, is I don't know quite know how to put this. Like you mentioned the episode Machines from season one. I think that's fair, and there was some similarity, but I'm also thinking about it from a writing perspective. It feels to me as though they decided, this is what this episode is going to be. This is what's going to happen. Here's how it starts. Here how it ends. And then they just maybe fluff out the middle.
Yeah.
So
And
maybe the episode could have just been shorter.
I think I would agree with that assessment. In fact, I know that I agree with that assessment. I found myself thinking, particularly as we looked at the flashback to her in Mechanical, I appreciate the idea, the sense of we get introduced to what her abilities are, what her skills are, the things that she's able to do, the relationships she starts to form. But almost just seemed like it was there just so it could introduce that final conversation where I think between her and Shirley, when they're sitting down as teenagers and they're exploring for the depths of the silo, and there's something about, if you had to do it, if you were pushed enough, you would you would face this challenge essentially. And then it's like, okay, then Juliet here in the present timeline faces the challenge and gets the bridge made and all that, right? It's like, did that only exist just to get to that point? But I think I agree with you. We could have cut some fat off of this somewhere.
Yeah. And okay, but so then maybe it's fine. But what was the episode doing in going back and forth? The flashbacks, I think it's true what you said, basically. This is the work that they do. Um, Maybe it's helping to deepen the character of Juliet
Hmm.
more. We already kind of knew this about her in a large degree.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of read it as maybe she was pulling on that experience and remembering that herself in terms
Yeah.
of motivating herself to push forward. Like, what else are you going to do? Just die?
Exactly. That
Um,
that's the conversation. Yeah.
so I think it works thematically, right? Because um, try to move towards stuff that's maybe a bit more interesting from this. But one of the things that you were wondering about in the article you wrote, it's like, why does she go to this silo? Let's talk about
Hmm.
that. Because I kind of found myself thinking that too towards the beginning. It's like, why are you going in the corpse silo? Like,
Yeah.
she's literally like climbing over dead bodies.
We see dozens of them, and I think this is the only one that we see that has, I mean, thousands of dead bodies just sort of littered everywhere. But as you get close to the entrance,
Yeah. So I thought two things that kind of hang together. Like, why does she go to that silo? One is she's got a limited air supply in her suit, and
yep.
she knows that. Whether she knows exactly how long it'll last, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's ever clarified or whatever. But she knows that like she doesn't have a ton of time.
Yep.
This silo's door is open,
Yes.
so that's something. Even though it's full of dead bodies, she can get in there. She can get out of what is a hellscape she now knows will kill her, right?
Yes.
Trying to go to one of the other ones, what are you going to do? Like go knock on the door and hope that they let
Yeah.
you in? There's a difficulty there. Um, Also, maybe this one was just the closest. I don't know for sure
Yeah. It
based on
certainly seemed
what.
like it was
Yeah,
close, and it certainly seems like there's the smallest chance of her, if she gets in, encountering other people. It could be a quote unquote safe space for her for a while if everybody's dead.
yeah, like maybe you're just hoping for breathable air. Like
Exactly.
what?
Exactly.
Then what comes next? You try to figure it out. I still don't know. She found some water. Still don't know about the food situation, but she did find a living person. So
Yeah, I have, I
I
have
am very
some
intrigued to see where this goes.
I have some food and water questions as we get to the guy in the vault and how he's for however long survived down there.
Yeah, let's go in that direction. But I guess first circle back to the opening scene. Of We know that there was a rebellion in the original Silo, which I guess we decided to call Silo Prime. Are other people doing that? Or other people calling it
I
Silo
just
Prime?
I just decided for sake of convenience to put that in the piece,
Yeah,
and so maybe it catches on, maybe it doesn't.
let's make fetch happen. The Silo Prime. That we know that there was a rebellion that they say was 140 years ago or something like that. I
Yep.
do think, thinking back to season one, there were a number of things that made us question that timeline. Maybe also question the official story about how long they've been in the silo.
Right.
There was, of course, this whole plan of destroying history,
Yes.
basically. You weren't allowed to have relics of the past and so on and so forth,
That's a
or
that's a big
revisit some of
question
these.
of the yeah, that's a big question of the rebellion that's been discussed already is how much of history was actually destroyed in that rebellion and what actually has been kept and sort of being held secret by IT. Yeah.
Right. Or like, and so what does Sims know? What does Bernard know? I think we should go ahead and revisit some of those questions we still have lingering from season one along the way here as well. But so, what information are we getting? None directly, because this is an entirely different silo. So we call this silo two, I guess. Um, Although they might have numbers within the narrative. It is possible that Silo Prime is
Yes.
number 18
Yes, yes.
from Bernard's key fob. Anyhow, um, here they have a rebellion that is successful,
Hmm.
right? It seemed in Silo Prime it was squashed. In Silo 2, it's successful, unfortunately, you know.
Yeah.
So what's interesting though is first of all, what are they trying to do there? That it's like they're trying to get through that door.
Yep.
She says the door to IT. Did you see something to indicate that, or are we just making an inference there that that's IT?
I believe that I saw a door that had an IT on it that they were trying to breach. So I'll have to go back and look at the continuity there, but I think I did see that.
Okay, well, it was definitely what I was thinking too. So I
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
No, I'm not trying to question it hard. I'm just like, do we know? One thing that I did get thinking about is, in terms of the physical structure of the silo, it very much resembles the silo
Yep.
prime from season one.
Right.
But what about the political structure? We
Yeah.
kind of don't know. How was this place run? Was it run in the same sort of way? Did they have the same kind of weird secrecy and deception stuff going on, or how might it have differed? What did that power structure look like? And it would
Yeah.
seem that our rebels are trying to get through that door, and they won't open it.
Even after, and we're sort of left to put some clues together after this rebel leader and his wife, I guess, have this conversation. But even after sort of being run over, the group that are in charge of this refuse to do it, which they sort of question is like, oh, why would they refuse to open this door? And that's that I think that's the first moment they start to think, well, were we right about this? And then, we see them go out the door anyway,
Yeah,
and I'll just learn what has happened to them.
yeah. Do you think that Russell, I think he says, it's
Yeah.
some unseen character, he was lying? It's interesting elliptical dialogue, right? Do you think he was lying? Well, there's one way to find out, meaning let's go outside. And then the other thing that guy says, I don't know if he gets a name. The other thing he says is something like, "We're going to be dead either way," implying that, well, if they don't go outside now, the powers that be, whoever's behind that door in IT, is going to kill them.
Yep.
I
Yep.
guess is the implication, right? So I don't think it's just one guy behind that door. Ultimately, I don't know.
Oh,
Do you?
interesting. Okay, I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, because it does raise a lot of questions. If there's one guy back there, how long ago was this rebellion that we saw? How long has he survived there by himself? How is he surviving there by himself? Obviously, after a certain number of years, if it's just one person left, he's going to expire, and we're not going to have, a person there. So there must have been, less than a lifetime ago that this rebellion has happened. But yeah, I didn't even consider the
Probably.
possibility that there may be more people back there, but that certainly could be the case.
Yeah. I mean, either way, I think that perhaps in part because in Silo Prime, we were told the rebellion was, 140 years ago or whatever, and just maybe something else about how it's all shot and how
Mhm.
dead everyone is,
Yeah.
real dead. It's like they're really real. They're very very dead.
Yeah.
Um, that all of that might put us in mind to think that this happened a long time ago, but I don't know that we know that. I mean,
Yeah.
how quickly does the toxic environment kill you and cause your flesh to decay and things like that? Maybe it's really quickly. Maybe this happened yesterday. Maybe this happened a
Yeah.
week ago.
This is a great
Uh,
point because I think we're so trained to, you see sort of crumbling, smoldering, just bones and clothes. And we just have seen so many instances over TV and movies that, oh, that, this happened decades and decades ago and they've decomposed to the point where there's just nothing left. Yeah, we don't know if what's happening outside does that over a period of hours or days or weeks, what to expect from this. But I think that may be part of the mystery here is okay, there's someone or some people were able to survive. So that rebellion cannot have been that long ago, I guess is what we have to infer.
unless there are enough people behind that door
Yeah.
in their safe part of the silo, which
Yeah.
also includes adequate food sources and all of that, and
Yeah.
adequate people to continue to reproduce
Yeah,
for
exactly.
generations. I mean,
Exactly.
and I think that's possible. We really don't know.
Yeah.
It would seem like the rest of the silo though has been abandoned.
Yeah.
And that leads to another question, which is one that people were asking at the end of season one as well. We now know that there are multiple silos, however many.
Hmm.
Presumably, they all have people in them, or at least once it did.
Yeah.
Are they in any contact with one another?
All right. So this, I'm glad you brought this up. To me, you introduce this type of structure where there are these identical, I mean, they look identical in terms of shape, in terms of structure, in terms of function, at least what we can see of these silos. It's too big a coincidence to say they were all just done individually and uniquely and they all operate. My thought is they have to be in some sort of communication in terms of how they work, what they're doing with them. Why would we have what seemingly was a similar attempt at rebellion in Silo Prime is what happened in this one, right? So they're trying to keep people out in the same way. I think at the very least, they're in communication with one another. I almost think that would have to be the case.
You would think. I mean, yeah, that this is my guess as well. And I
Yeah.
would further guess that Bernard knows, and that like Bernard might be the only person in Silo Prime who knows and who has any level of contact with anyone else in any other silo.
Yeah.
I think that's possible.
To go back to the last show I wrote about for this site, this is the Targaryen, prophecy that's passed down from leader to leader, right? So someone passes to Bernard, Bernard would pass it down to the next person of IT, right? This is sort of the thing that's passed between a very, very, very small number of people that can connect these things and keep them in communication. That could be completely off base, but I don't see how they're not connected in some way like that.
Well, I mean, it does, and there is another possibility that some of them are and some of them aren't, I suppose.
Hmm.
Or even if it is a plan, like you were saying, we had some indications in season one that Sims was going to become Bernard's shadow.
Yeah,
So I don't think Sims does know, but would come to know if we're right about, some of this other stuff, which we're speculating about.
yeah,
Um, that does open the possibility that in some instances, maybe the one only person who knew died without being able to pass on the knowledge or whatever. And
yeah,
or another possibility is, well, look, I mean, maybe the biggest question is what the hell happened in the first place? Why are the people in the silos? And what was that city on the horizon?
exactly.
And like, are we on Earth? And I think we're on Earth. And then what
Yeah,
happened? Because whatever happened had to be something where there was enough time for sufficient planning in terms of making these
yeah,
silos, right? Who are the founders? Why were they doing this? What, all of those sorts of questions. But, part of me thinks if we're facing some kind of environmental catastrophe where we're not going to be able to live outside, and the idea is, well, we'll make a bunch of silos. I don't know. I'd potentially suggest that they operate according to slightly different plans.
yeah. That may be the case, and I have had this sort of thought in several directions. You obviously can't create, plan, build, put together these things if you're dealing with like nuclear fallout, but you can if you say, well, there's some sort of environmental disaster coming in 50 years and we can't stop it at this point. I did go back and read your recaps from season one that you wrote for the site, and I think it was the first episode you talked about how we don't know, we have not seen what has caused this apocalypse to happen. And at the time you were thinking, well, maybe that's okay. Are you still thinking that now that it would be okay if we never find out, or do we need to know at this point? Now that we've been
I
introduced to all these silos.
I think it would be okay if we never found out, still only insofar as um will there be a way for the story to tell us what happened that like feels right, that
Mm.
works. And if not, um I don't want them to shoehorn something in just to answer that question.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that's largely where I was at the beginning when you reminded me of
yeah.
that
I mean, I do hope if this was not sort of what we think of as an apocalypse. This was a social experiment or something that we would figure that out. But if it's just, yeah, something happened to our Earth and we had to go underground, yeah, that they would figure out some way to let us know that without, we're going to have an exposition dump here and, go back 5,000 years and say what happened.
Yeah, just like shoehorn in a flashback with a bunch of
Yeah.
characters we've never seen before.
Yeah.
But who knows? I don't know how many seasons this show will go, and if there's a good narrative way to do it, I would appreciate an answer to that question. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess it does. The end of season one does change things a little bit because now we know that it is true that the outside is toxic and will kill you.
Yeah.
Whereas, really, for the entirety of season one, that was a question in my own mind,
Yeah.
and in the viewer's mind. Um, Now that we know that, it's kind of interesting in retrospect to think about, well, why are they engaged in all of the things that they're engaged in? I mean, it's like they're weirdly, thinking back to Silent Prime, the powers that be are weirdly lying to people by telling them the truth almost.
Yeah.
It's an odd thing, right? Um,
Yeah. That's the thing
and
we'll need to find out at some point. What is the motivation to not, well, what's the motivation to have people who go out to clean make it think like things are okay? Right.
yeah, I mean, I get the best I have on that is because they think that it actually is lush and green and okay outside, that motivates them to want to clean the windows so that other people inside can see, like, oh, look, see,
Mhm.
um then that leads me to ask, well, like, why is it so important to them to clean the damn window?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, why is that important? um it's kind of odd. There's one little thing I'll mention here, and it's a little bit of a tangent, but I really got hung up on it in season one that at one point the power goes out and through the cafeteria window you see the outside as lush and green.
Yep.
And I really latched onto that, which apparently was a mistake because like Hugh Howey in interviews was like, I don't know why they did that,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know.
and it doesn't make much
Um,
sense because if you're
yeah.
to flash and see what's actually there, you would see what's actually there and not the computer generated version of what they're trying to make people see.
Well, and it led me all the way through to, I mean, it was like someone commenting on my recap of the season one finale that keyed me into the idea that that false reality was in their helmets. It hadn't even occurred to me that
Yeah.
it was a projection within their helmet
Yeah.
because of that one little scene. So I don't know why the makers of the show put that in there.
Yeah. Good
But
point.
apparently the writer of the books says, well, I don't know why that's in there either. I don't know why they did that. And then like kind of tries to post hoc come up with some kind of explanation of how it could be consistent somehow or something.
Yeah.
But it seems like the long and short of it, to anyone listening who was also hung up on that, seems like the long and short of it is just like, just ignore that.
Yeah.
Like it's just a weird little,
It is
almost like
it
a
is
continuity error.
exactly that's exactly the word I was going to use. It does seem like a continuity error in some ways now that we know what we know. Um, and to go back and reference something you mentioned a minute ago, I think it was just today, an interview with Rebecca Ferguson came out, and I think the wrap where she said, "We do plan to tell this whole story, the story of the three books, and in our minds, we believe it will take 4 seasons to do that."
Okay.
And so they do plan to sell, she said, obviously it depends on audience and it depends on Apple, it depends on a lot of things, but they believe they can tell this whole story in 4 10 episode seasons. So we're 25% of the way through. We got a lot to go to understand what's actually happening here.
Yeah. That sounds good though. And I mean, one of the things though is though, Ryan, they could go really fast if they
Yep.
wanted to. That's the going back to our kind of complaint at the beginning about how sometimes it feels like the show really drags. Well, if you think back to season one, by the time you get to the last couple episodes or the last episode of the season in particular, it's like lots of stuff's happening and you're getting
Yes.
lots of new information.
Yes.
So it almost feels like they're withholding and that the narrative is purposefully going to be a kind of slow
Yeah.
rollout, um, where probably the season will have a similar structure.
Yeah.
which is a little disappointing because, you know, after the kind of cliffhanger ending of season one, you're excited for season two. Like, I want some answers to these questions. And then I now feel like, okay, well, we'll probably get some answers in 10 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like we get to the season two finale and like, oh, now we know more things.
I do draw a little bit of encouragement, perhaps, if we spend, say, 6 or 8 episodes doing the flip-flop back and forth between this new silo and the silo prime or silo 18, that yes, you'll have to wait, a week in between each one, but the action within each of those, or the story within each of those, will move faster because they're having to tell the story of that silo in 3 episodes as opposed to stretching it out over 6, like we had in the first season.
Yeah, and I am really intrigued. I very much do hope that we go back to um, Silo Prime next week,
Yeah.
even though that means we'll be left to sit with this cliffhanger for 2 weeks.
Yeah. The
Still, I
teaser
want
the
to.
teaser image on Apple TV Plus that just shows coming next week has a character from back in the silo. So we surely will.
But yeah, but it probably means we're not going to see Juliet,
Right.
so but I'm really curious, what will the fallout be? They've now seen her go out to clean, refuse to clean, which no one ever refuses to clean, and then, walk away.
Yeah.
This has never happened before,
Yeah. And I think I
right?
put in my piece that's perhaps the question I'm most interested to find some answers to is, oh, what is the ramifications of people seeing something like this they've never seen before? Yeah, I really can't wait to see this next episode.
Yeah. Same. I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to. I think that Steve's on behind the door. I guess we don't know for sure. But we're both of the mind. We know that Steve's on is in this season. We both think
Yeah.
that Steve's on. We only
Yeah.
see his eyes and hear his voice in this
Right.
episode.
Right. So it's a logical, reasonable assumption at this point.
Yeah, I think that's who it is.
Mhm.
His voice kind of reminded me of another actor. Never mind. I shouldn't have said that because I don't have it at the ready. Like who I'm thinking. It's one of those things where I have an image of the guy in my mind right now, but I don't even
Yeah.
know the actor's name. He's just like that character actor guy from that thing, so I'm totally unprepared to have made that comment. Um, but we know Steve Zahn's in this, so probably it is Steve
Yeah.
Zahn. Um, all right, looking at our notes, I think that about covers it. Anything else you want to hit on before we wrap up here?
No, that's it. We'll be back next week to discuss, and I'll have piece up, yeah, overnight. I did notice, we'll have to see if this trend continues. I got a notification on my phone. I did verify this was the case. It was at 8 p.m. Pacific last night, Thursday, that they put it online. Right. So I don't know if there was an embargo to when you could post the review, but they posted the episode early for some reason.
Yeah, they do stuff like that, so they very well may have.
Yeah.
And now we're talking shop. But the question on our end in terms of when we can publish the article will be based on what
Yeah.
it says the embargo time is, which I don't think they changed. So, but yeah, we'll be back next week, talk about episode 2. Keep an eye out for Ryan's recap, which will publish a bit earlier in like the wee hours, at least on Friday. And the podcast will generally be coming out in the evening. If you've enjoyed listening to the podcast, please do leave us a good rating, review, subscribe, whatever. If you're on YouTube, give a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. And check out TVObscast.com. You can follow the site on social media. A lot of people are flocking to Blue Sky this week. We are on Blue Sky. We've been on Blue Sky for a while. So if you're on there, go and follow TV Obsessive. And you can also find me on there as well, personally, if you're so inclined. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
All right. Looking forward to it. See you for episode 2.